The Chemistry of Glow Sticks by Hans Hohmeister and Cooper Crosby. What is the reaction in glow sticks called? The chemical reaction that occurs in the glow sticks is named chemiluminescence, or when the reaction results in light. Inside the glow sticks, the chemicals react to produce energy, which then emits the light or the glow. One of the big components of their chemical reaction is the fluorescent dyes. These are solid dyes that are mixed with the phenyl oxalate ester. During the reaction, these dyes influence the wavelength of the photon produced and eventually the color emitted in the glow stick. The colors listed on the screen are the fluorescent dyes that are used in glow sticks today. For a blue glow, you use diphenylanthracene. For a green glow, you use bisphenolethyl anthracene. For a red glow, you use rhodamine B. For a yellow glow, you use rubrene, and for an orange glow, you use bisphenolethyl naphthalene. And to the right of each of these fluorescent dyes, you see their chemical formulas. How do you create the reaction in glow sticks? There are different ways to create the reaction, but this process is a very popular way and used primarily to create the glow sticks that we can purchase in store. There are 5 components to create this reaction. You are going to need phenyl oxalate ester, a fluorescent dye that we talked about on the previous slide, hydrogen peroxide, diethyl phthalate, and sodium acetate, or you can also use sodium salicylate. All components have their chemical formulas next to them, and the chemical formulas for each fluorescent dye is on the previous slide. To create the reaction, you are first going to produce a liquid containing the diethyl phthalate, which acts as a solvent, along with the phenyl oxalate, a fluorescent dye, and the sodium acetate. The sodium acetate acts as a catalyst which helps speed the reaction up when the hydrogen peroxide is mixed in. Once you combine the liquid containing the diethyl phthalate, the phenyl oxalate, the dye, and the sodium acetate with the hydrogen peroxide, the chemical reaction will start and you will get a glow. In glow sticks that you can buy in store, the liquid containing the phenyl oxalate and dye is separated from the hydrogen peroxide until you want the reaction to begin.
What is the chemical reaction that creates the light? The hydrogen peroxide oxidizes with the phenyl oxalate. The reaction between the two creates an unstable oxide of carbon called dioxidione. Because the dioxidione is unstable, it decomposes to carbon dioxide. This decomposition releases energy, causing the fluorescent dye to become excited. The dye then relaxes by producing a photon. The color of the light is dependent on the wavelength of the photon and the fluorescent dye that was used. Below is a depiction of the chemical reaction. Here you can see the phenyl oxalate and the hydrogen peroxide. This then yields the dioxidione, which then reacts with the dye and decomposes into carbon dioxide and an excited dye, which then releases the photon and in turn light. In a typical glow stick, there are 2 liquids that are separated within. Inside the flexible plastic casing, there is the hydrogen peroxide solution, and within that there is a glass container which contains the phenyl oxalate and the fluorescent dye. When you bend the outer casing, you break the glass tube, releasing the phenyl oxalate dye into the hydrogen peroxide. This creates a reaction, and a very fast reaction at that. The glow is emitted quickly, typically only lasting for a couple hours. This diagram depicts the glow sticks that we use in our experiment, but there are different types of glow sticks that have hydrogen peroxide inside the glass tube, for example. It varies with different glow sticks, but the chemical reaction is the same.
Here you can see we took a glow stick and we bended it to break the glass vial inside of it and start the chemical reaction. To speed it up a little bit, you can shake it. And as you can see, when we turn the lights off, the chemical reaction is almost immediate and you have your glow very quickly. Now, for a better look at the inside, we're going to cut open the glow stick and do the chemical reaction on our own. Here you can see we begin to cut open the glow stick. We now begin to pour out the hydrogen peroxide and the glass vial that contains the phenyl oxalate ester and the fluorescent dye. The tape is mixed up, however, and the clear liquid in the beaker is actually the hydrogen peroxide, and the glass vial contains the phenyl oxalate. Here we break the glass vial containing the phenyl oxalate and the dye in the glow stick and pour it out into a beaker. Keep in mind there is a glow right now because the phenyl oxalate and ester are reacting to the remnants of the hydrogen peroxide that were already in the glow stick.
See, it's glowing, but like when we put it in there more.
Take the extracted phenyl oxalate and dye and put it into the separate beaker with the hydrogen
Put it in
peroxide.
small. No. Put it.
Here's where it starts to react.
Right, that's what I thought would be the best. I was saying iron, but I was thinking copper. The thing is, yesterday you had copper mixed with sodium, and that didn't really come out looking good. But if you just had copper, it would give you a nice green color.
All right, Hans, pick it up.
The influence of temperature. When the temperature rises, the particles begin to move faster, which means the chemical reaction happens faster. When the chemical reaction is faster, the glow will be much brighter, but will not last as long. With a colder temperature and a slower reaction, the glow is not as bright, but will last much longer. Here we have an example of this. On the left, we have a glow stick in ice water.
And on the right, we have a glow stick in warm water.
As you can see, the glow stick in warm water is much brighter, but will not last nearly as long as the one on the left.
As with any given chemistry experiment, there come dangers. And when glow sticks use phenyl oxalate ester, the chemical reaction with hydrogen peroxide produces phenyl. Phenyl is toxic, and when inhaled over a long period of time, can cause cardiovascular disease. When coming in contact with phenyl, it can cause serious skin damage. Ingestion of the liquid in glow sticks that contains phenyl can cause gastrointestinal damage. In order not to produce phenyl, glow stick producers opt out of using any phenyl oxalate ester and instead use TCPO and CCPO in their products.
These are our sources.